Could Merlin the magician have actually been real? And did he have a hand in possibly creating Stonehenge? Some theorists say that the Grand Wizard actually did exist, and that Stonehenge was built by his hand. Stay tuned to check it out. The following account actually comes from a follower/subscriber of my pages. She's very knowledgeable and lives in Europe, so she knows a lot about Merlin and the lore, and it's going to be stuff you've never heard. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, because it's awesome content, you guys. Merlin, as many of you may know, was in charge or sort of the handler of King Arthur of Camelot. He had and has the title of Grand Wizard, which is equivalent to High Priest. The title distinguishes the form of craft. Merlin belonged to an ancient order who were in charge with overseeing of the energy lines of what we now call the region of the United Kingdom. We will not speak on whether or not the purpose was for positive or negative. These times were not too distant from the Third Great Earth War. Giants still walked freely within their tribes. Stonehenge was already built in this time, and part of the task of the order Merlin arose from was and is to keep it in their control. The henge works as a contact point between dimensions. One only needs the right vibration by which to activate the stones added to the proper celestial alignment. Or in the case of Merlin and the order, what in our time we know as the staff of Merlin will suffice. Meaning that if you did come upon the staff of Merlin, you could activate Stonehenge. The staff, like many others throughout history, were wielded by those of great stature and title, was and is furnished with a crystal stone. Crystals, even when taken from the earth or brought across dimensions, remain entangled to its source of origin. The actual staff serves as a conduit or medium, allowing the user to activate energies of that stone. Merlin gained his title at a time when old enemies from the blood of those who dwelt on the lands before that the order in the New Kingdom now saw as theirs. These enemies were pushed into the forest during previous battles with the ancestors of Arthur. Be mindful that the order was and is responsible for the dominance of those who from after the Great War held power there. The tribes who came before Arthur were brought to these lands by Merlin through dream walking / giving subliminal messages in dreams to fight those who dwell in the forest who before lived on the land. Arthur came from a bloodline selected by the order from the tribes which Merlin brought over. The bloodline comes from a people who were created by an outside force to fight as warriors in the great wars. Their line had remained strong and purer than others in their region. Real quick, y'all, I want to go over this, where she says that through dream walking and subliminal messaging, Merlin recruited the knights at the round table, essentially, or these bloodlines, to fight the inhabitants previously on Earth, the ones they pushed into the forest. Well, what I take that as is Merlin was astral traveling. He was astral traveling to other lands and recruiting bloodlines for battle to help take and keep Earth and Stonehenge as their own. Arthur came from a bloodline selected by the order from the tribes which Merlin brought over. People from outside the realm, extraterrestrials, right? The bloodline comes from a people who were created by an outside force to fight as warriors in the Great War. Fight as warriors in the Great War. These people are basically hybrids. They're probably much more advanced than us. They know energy manipulations. They can use power crystals, etc. If you believe in all that stuff, I'm just saying this is what I'm taking from it. King Arthur was Merlin's solution to bringing peace to the land, but moreover, assuming control. Merlin had realized that the conflicts and wars were interfering with the natural vibration of the energy lines. He saw that with war, they too were losing, even if they were winning by the sword. Not all in the order believed this. Some began to manipulate the conflict, causing the war to escalate. At that time, minor imbued weapons were still in the hands of men, and again, the battle of metal and magic raged. Merlin had guided Arthur through dreamwalking, but he knew more was needed, and that is where the sword came in. When it emerged, the sword was not forged, but created. With knowledge, one can manipulate natural metals or organic material into different states. It has been attempted recently, but it has not reached perfection. The sword was as light as wood, but as strong as a diamond. It was imbued with rune magic and entangled to the blood and the DNA of the chosen bloodline. The runes are activated only by the grasp of one who is of that bloodline. One rune was meant to bring fear to the enemy of the wielder. It simply sends a vibration to the enemy, giving them a sense of fear. It can be overcome, but by only one who is strong-willed. One is for binding. It must be switched on or off. When on, one could not draw the sword from its sheath. It is this rune that binds it to the fabled sword in the stone. Another rune is a key to a place of refuge, not seen by the average eyes. Even after Arthur had brought peace to the lands, not just through war, but through understanding those who he was told were his enemies. Merlin supported him in his new philosophy, and it was one that even Merlin had now adopted. This change in Merlin was not accepted by those who had already secretly reignited the war, and this began a split within the order. Merlin's life, along with Arthur's life, became in danger. This was because members of the order sought to re-establish the path Merlin had recently changed. Merlin had long seen these events and actually prepared for them. He found a way to access a pocket dimension within the space-time of Stonehenge. Very few knew, but he had created Arthur's sword as a key to access this place. This place was used to escape the order, who together would overpower a single Grand Wizard. Merlin only held his own because, like those who were given the title of Grand Wizard, they were chosen because they are born with natural abilities. It is said that the lives of Merlin, Arthur, and those they chose still dwell within this fabled place. Wow, y'all. What a cool story. Amazing, like nothing I've ever heard. All of it, from the runes powering Excalibur, the notorious sword in the stone, to the crystals powering Merlin's staff. I mean, this stuff you can't make this up. It's just crazy stuff, y'all. What a cool story, regardless. Even if even if it's not absolutely true, it's something that it should be told. It's just awesome. Amazing stuff. It's part of our history. Even if it is just a story, I guarantee you've never heard it told like that. That is one of the coolest accounts of Merlin that I've ever heard. Now, what's more and what's crazier is there is actually a story in history of Merlin having a hand in creating Stonehenge. All right? So, I'm going to tell you that real quick. It's short, but it's very intriguing. This story is from the archives of legend and lore. It has to do with Merlin the magician and the uncle and father of King Arthur. King Arthur's uncle and his father. This story begins in the 5th century AD. The Romans had just withdrawn from Great Britain, but the Saxons were advancing rapidly across the land. The native British had sought to resist because they wanted to keep their civilization of Romano-Britons intact. So there was absolutely terrible bloodshed between the Saxons and the British for many years. So much so that all the chiefs of each tribe decided to meet at the Salisbury Plain. It was here that they were going to try to negotiate peace. While in the past, at that time, people had taken a more hardball approach to negotiations, they all decided that each chief should not have a weapon to wield, that they should show up unarmed. But the Saxon chiefs went against the truce, and each of them had brought a knife to the meeting. And about halfway through, as negotiations were reaching their peak, one of them signaled, and each of them pulled their knife, killing the Briton to their left. So this gave the Saxons the upper hand in the war. That was until a British prince in exile in France, Aurelius Ambrosius, showed back up with his brother, Uther Pendragon. Uther Pendragon is the father of King Arthur. Upon his return, Ambrosius had won a major victory against the Saxons, and in doing so, he wanted to honor the Britons who fell at Salisbury Plain. He called upon the wise men for advice on how he should honor these fallen men, and Merlin told him of a beautiful stone circle that had been placed by the giants. It was located on a mountain in Ireland, and it was called the Giants' Dance. So Ambrosius sent Uther Pendragon and Merlin to steal the giant's dance. He also ordered them to kill any Irish resistance that stands in their way. And this they did. The Irish, understandably, put up a fight as they wanted the giant's dance to stay in its place. But Uther Pendragon's army defeated them. But once victorious, there was just one problem: how to transport the massive stones. This was where Merlin came in. He applied esoteric knowledge to uproot the massive stones and transport them by ship back to the Salisbury Plain, where he re-erected them in a perfect circle. And in this tale, it's said that Uther Pendragon and Ambrosius were eventually buried here when they died of old age. Legend has it that Arthur was supposed to be buried there as well, but he never died. He was injured and taken to an island, the Isle of Avalon, where he was put to sleep in a dream state for his return once again to reign over the land. Now, nobody knows exactly how Merlin was able to get these stones to the Salisbury Plain, but many think he was using feats of engineering, while others say that it's possible he used some sort of levitating technology or sound or spell. You can find this account in Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain, written in Oxford in the 12th century. And there you have it, folks. A little Merlin history for you. Many of you may not believe in Merlin. You don't have to. But I think it's cool, and we should share his stories. Do I think it's possible he could have existed? Absolutely. There's a very high chance that he did exist. Stories don't come out of nowhere. They don't just appear in legend. I mean, most of the time, there is some sort of historical account that coincides with them. I'm not saying you have to believe, but as always, do try to keep an open mind. I hope you enjoyed this story. There will be many more to come, and I probably will go live here in the next couple nights. I got an intriguing live ready for you guys. You should enjoy it. It's actually quite wild. Just something I have maybe found due to a follower sending me a image on Google Earth. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it turns out well, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Probably not tonight, maybe tomorrow night. I'm going to be moving into my new house. I'm going to be moving into that, so I'll be busy for the next day or two, but plan on me being live there real soon. As always, stay in the love, stay in the light, fam. Treat others how you want to be treated. Spread love and kindness in the world. We need more of it today, as you all know. So, again, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Couldn't do without you. Keep following. Hit that like button. Make sure you comment whether you like this story or not. And we will see you next time. I am out.